Welcome to today's live IELTS class. I hope everybody is having a great day so far. Looking forward to a fantastic weekend, staying healthy and strong. Hi, Sita. Pudel, good to see you. Good morning to you. It's evening time for me. And in this class, everyone, we are looking at IELTS listening parts 3 and 4, the tougher sections, the tougher parts of the listening, and we're going to go for that band 9. As usual, our lesson is presented to you by aehelp.com. For academic IELTS success, please visit us there. For the general IELTS, check us out at gieltshelp.com. That's generalieltshelp.com. On both of our websites, we have loads and loads of materials to help you improve and get those high band scores. We're going to be using those websites today for our listening. And for our apps, you can get our apps at Academic IELTS Help and General IELTS Help. Just search for those apps on your Play or Apple App Store. And check us out on Instagram, IELTS_AEHelp. GIELTS Help, we've got lots of cool stuff. We got some new multiple choice question challenges there for you, specifically for the listening section. Welcome, Rashika, honey. Good to see our members joining in. LC Breezy, Chris Brown forever, and Hariam Patidar, Vanansia, Jitendra, Supreme, Dalakoti. Good to see many students with me here today. All right, everyone, if you have questions about our services or products or the IELTS exam, just send me an email, adrian@aehelp.com. There's writing and speaking help available on our websites, and you can get our exams from Amazon as well. AEhelps, Academic IELTS, or GHelps, General IELTS. Search for those titles on Amazon, and you can get the electronic or the paper version of our exams. Now, before we get into our listening, and we will do that very quickly here, just one more reminder today about the change in our streaming schedule. So right now, we have this time, and from next week, so tomorrow we have some more classes, but then next week, from May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, we are going to have a new class schedule coming. That will be 12:30 and 14 o'clock Universal Time or GMAT time. Okay, so check that out. All right, here we go. If Jitendra, if the slide is not clear for you, adjust it to 720p. That's what I recommend. Okay. All right. Cool. For your screen resolution, of course. So we're going to get right into listening, and we are starting with part 3. Now you see that we have this title as section 3, but in fact you will now see part 3 instead of section 3 in the IELTS exam. This is our third exam on our website for those of you that have our premium package. This is our website here at aehelp.com. We are an IELTS registration center for tests as well as British Council agents. And you can get our premium package by clicking that big red button. It's a one-time payment, lifetime access. All right, let's get into our My Student account here. At the top, we'll end the tour. And students, I'm going to play the audio here for the listening. So right now, all I want you to do is listen and answer. Okay, put your answers into a separate document or write them down on a separate sheet. We will go through all of the answers together, okay, at the end. So don't put your answers in the chat because that will confuse students. And if it's quiet for you, then try to use a headset if you have one and turn up the volume. Okay, so I'm going to play the audio, and then afterwards we will go through the answers together and talk strategies. So this is CD 3, track 3 for those of you who have access to our premium courses. Okay, everyone, here we go. Get ready to listen and answer.
Now turn to section 3. Take some time to look at questions 21 to 26. Listening section 3. You will hear a public forum discussion between the moderator and two contributors, Dr. Philip McPhee and Dr. Ron Tatum, both political scientists at the local university, talking about the nature of taxes in society. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 26.
First of all, I would like to thank Dr. McPhee and Dr. Tatum for taking time out of their busy lives to spend this evening with us.
Thank you for having us.
Dr. McPhee, could you give us a little bit of the history of taxation?
Certainly. Taxes have been around almost as long as civilization itself. There are records of taxes being collected by Egyptian pharaohs approximately 5,000 years ago. It was customary to give 20% of your production to the pharaoh, and those who evaded taxes were severely punished.
Dr. Tatum, what are the reasons for taxes?
Well, there are essentially three major reasons for taxes. The first and most obvious reason is revenue. Governments need money, and taxes fulfil this need. The government then spends this tax revenue on investments that are good for society, such as healthcare, schools and roads. Funding the army would fall under this category as well. The second reason for taxation is for the redistribution of wealth. In simpler terms, this means taking money from the rich and giving it to the poor. Many societies do this out of a belief that it is the responsibility of the government to look after the poor people in society. I'll let Dr. McPhee talk about the final reason for taxation, called repricing.
Thank you, Dr. Tatum. Yes, the third main reason for taxation is called repricing, and by this we mean changing the price of a product to a different, generally higher price. This may sound quite strange, but if you bear with me, you'll see that it makes perfect sense. In general, products are allowed to be priced in a free market. That is to say, whoever can provide goods for the lowest price is the most successful. However, there are certain types of goods that we don't allow to go to the free market. In many countries, these are goods like tobacco and alcohol. These goods are subject to a repricing tax, which is used to discourage people from using the product. Also, these repricing taxes help offset the future medical costs associated with the people who use tobacco and alcohol excessively.
You now have some time to look at questions 27 to 30. Now listen to the rest of the discussion and answer questions 27 to 30.
Very well. Do you favour higher or lower taxes?
I am a strong proponent of higher taxes. The reason for this is simply that it is easier to make money when you already have money. This gives a massive advantage to those people who may have inherited money or come from rich families, because money is so much easier to gain for these people if used wisely. Taxing them seems only fair and for the greater good. This compensates the poorer sections of society who really have little or no hope to gain financial success.
I understand Dr. Tatum's position, but one has to be wary of the fact that if taxes are too high for businesses, then those businesses will leave the country in favour of countries with lower taxes. Of course, it would be nice if we could legislate a worldwide tax structure, but this is simply not attainable. And I'm sure by the time it becomes attainable, companies will likely have opportunities to leave for another planet with more favourable tax structure.
Yes, you're right, Dr. McPhee. We must always be mindful of staying competitive. It is like a tightrope we must walk between compensating those less fortunate and being able to stay competitive in the market. Because if we fail to be competitive, then tax revenue will dry up, resulting in no money at all for the lower economic classes. So this is an extremely difficult balancing act.
Which leads to my next question. What is the future of taxation?
I believe you will see higher taxes in 50 years than there are today, just as we have higher taxes today than 50 years ago. We will need even more money for projects like high-speed transit, new roads, new technologies. Also, with an ageing population, medical costs could soar in the near future, resulting in higher taxes to support this healthcare system.
I think the future will be a lot like the present, walking the tightrope as Dr. Tatum mentioned. Where that takes us, I'm not sure. If I had to guess, I'd say higher taxes for the reasons Dr. Tatum outlined. However, another important variable to consider is whether free markets can really be allowed.
That is the end of section 3. You will now have half a minute to check your answers.
All right, students, and take that half minute to check your answers when they give you that half minute. I'm just going to stop the audio on the website here. And then, of course, if you're listening to the audio directly from the website on your computer or your phone, you're going to get a lot better quality than through my speaker, for sure. All right. So let's go through these questions and answers together. Sharada, I see that you're saying your screen is not that clear. Adjust it to 720p. That might help in your YouTube settings. Okay. So condense it a little bit. All right. So here we go with the first one. So it's write no more than 2 words and or a number for each answer. If an Egyptian's income was 10,000, whatever it is, how much would be given to the pharaoh? Okay, this was a little bit of simple math from comprehension. Be ready for these types of questions, especially in part 3 and part 4. There's a good chance you will get a question like this where you have to do a little bit of logic, a little bit of calculation. Honey, Munjal says it's 2,000 because 20% of 10,000 is 2,000, and 2,000 is the correct answer, okay? So Mandeep, not 20%. Kamal, not 20%, because they give you the number. If the Egyptian's income was 10,000, how much? Not what percent would be given to the pharaoh, but how much would be given to the pharaoh. You really have to, in the IELTS, pay attention to the question just as much as the audio, especially in part 3 and part 4. So here, the correct answer is definitely 2,000, because 2,000 is 20% of 10,000. Okay. All right. The first reason mentioned for tax is what? And again, logic can really help you with the answers. When I did my IELTS exam, I actually missed, I think, 2 questions, and I was able to figure them out just by logic. Okay. Rashika says the first reason is revenue. It's the income for the government, right? Another way to say income is revenue. You should use the word that's used by the people in the audio, and that is revenue. Make sure you have correct spelling. If you don't know the spelling, don't panic. Just write it down, and you might get some help later in the questions to spell it correctly. Okay? So good job, Prathamesh, Shivam, Mandeep, nicely done. Okay, so revenue. 23. The second reason for taxes is known as something. Takes money from the rich and gives it to the poor. You could say it's the Robin Hood of the taxes, or that's the concept anyway. Doesn't always quite work that way, but that's the idea. So what's the second reason for taxes? Ayman Shavai says it's redistribution. Very nice, Navneet. Vishnu, good job. So yeah, it's redistribution, right? Redistribution of tax, yeah. Collect it, give it back out, take a little bit more from the rich, try to give a bit more to the more needy. That's the idea. It's redistribution. All right. Makes sense. So those were the first 3 answers, okay? When you have no more than 2 words, you might only have 1 word for each. These days, they're very honest with the instructions. So in my computer-based exam, it was just 1 word all the way through. 1 word for this, 1 word for that, okay? So if you have 2 words, no more than 2 words. It's possible that one answer will be 2 words, but it's possible that they will just be 1 word each. All right. Okay. So here we go. Let's keep going with this. Now, the next question was a flowchart completion, and you had A, B, C, D, E, F. You only need the letter. You do not need the word. So this third reason for taxes was something. We're going to get to that. I don't want to give you the answer, but you ended up with this flowchart here, and they really nicely explain this. So you have the product, and the product could be either this or this. A product is some kind of a good, okay? And for 24, whatever the product is allowed to go to the free market. So revenue is not a product. Alcohol is a product. Redistribution is not a product. Repricing. General goods, those are products. And production. So there's only 2 letters here that could be 24, either B or E. Okay? Mandeep Singh says, well, it's got to be E. It's got to be general goods that are allowed to go to the free market. And you're absolutely correct, Mandeep. Prathamesh, yeah, it's E. So general goods are allowed to go to the free market. Computers, toys, and lots more, clothing, and so on, right? However, there are other types of products. Now, if you got this one, you should be able to figure out number 25 quite quickly, because there's really only one other product here, and that's B, that's alcohol. So 25 should be B, right? Which is alcohol. Product, general goods, product, alcohol. And alcohol is subject to a something tax, and that was the third reason for taxes. And hopefully all of you got that. That was D, the repricing tax, okay? So they very clearly explain that certain goods have a type of tax called a repricing tax, such as alcohol, or such as gasoline as well. Gasoline has petrol. Fuel has a repricing tax. Again, IELTS is a thinking question, right? So you have to think about these. Why does fuel, why does gas, diesel, all of that, why does it have a repricing tax? Because it damages the environment, right? So tobacco, alcohol causes damage to our health, which costs society money in the form of hospitals. Diesel, petrol, gas, they cause damage to the environment, which needs to be cleaned up or which needs to be managed. So that costs extra money. So there's a repricing tax on those types of products. Okay, now here we had this multiple choice question. And here you really want to pay attention for the answers. Don't just stare at these, because it's 3. And each one is worth 1 point. 27, 28, 29. So you have 3 points here. You have 3 wrong answers, 3 correct answers. With this type of question, really pay attention to the question itself. So which 3 of the following are arguments given in favor of lower taxes? So this is a very important part of the question, okay? Not higher taxes, but lower taxes. So let's take a look. It's easier to make money when you are already rich. That would be an argument for higher taxes. So I know that that one's not going to be correct. So that's logically it's wrong, okay? Mandeep saying 27, one could be C. Inheriting money requires no hard work. I don't think so. They didn't really talk about inheriting money. I don't think so. Businesses will leave the country if taxed too harshly. Is that true? So even if you don't listen to the audio, is it true that businesses will leave the country if they're taxed? Yeah, absolutely. So that looks like a good answer, just at first glance, okay? A country must be able to stay competitive in the global market. I'm pretty sure that was given, right? So that was one of the points the man said, one of the professors. They said the country has to be competitive, right? Okay. These will not be in order, Blueberry. Okay. So these kinds of questions, be really, really careful, students. The IELTS listening for some question types like this one is not necessarily in order. Okay. When I did my exam, I did an official exam in February. And when I did my exam, there was a question in part 3, exactly like this, but it was a different type of question where you had to organize different pieces into a flow chart, and definitely it was not in order in the audio. So you had to listen to kind of more information and then figure out what goes where. So a worldwide tax structure can be implemented. I don't know, maybe. Lower taxes in the end up benefiting everyone, including the poor. I remember that was also an argument that was given. So those are your 3 correct answers for this one. B, B, D, and F. And these do not have to be in order on your answer sheet. Okay, so these, because they might not come in the order that you're hearing in the audio, you don't have to have them in order on your answer sheet. So it can be FDB, DFB, DBF. Doesn't matter as long as you're getting them correct. Okay. All right. So B, D, and F. Those were the correct answers. All right. Next question, last one for part 3. Let's do this. Okay, here we go. So choose the correct letter, A, B, or C. What do the speakers believe about taxes in the future? I think this one was a little bit easier, so I hope many of you got it. They will stay relatively the same. They will be lower. They will be higher. If I asked 100 people, what would they say? I think most people will agree, unfortunately, that taxes will be higher. They seem to just go up, up, and up all the time. IELTS doesn't lie. Okay, so let's say you completely space out on a question like this. You're just like, whoa, where was I? I was zoning out. And you miss hearing it. Just use logic. IELTS will not give a false answer. So IELTS won't say something crazy like, oh, taxes will be lower in the future. Very unlikely. Okay, so they're going to express the truth. Taxes will be higher. All right. So again, if you miss a question, don't panic. Use logic. That can help you a lot. Okay. Manju says I got 8 out of 10. Rashika got 7 out of 10. That's good. Students, for part 3 and part 4, your goal is basically 6 or more. Okay. You want to get at least 6 or more on part 3, part 4. If you can do that, then you have a good chance of getting a nice high band score overall. Okay. So if you got more than 6 of these correct, you are definitely on the right track. Okay. All right. We've got one more part left. We've got part 4 left. Let's do that now. Let's do that together. Same way as part 3. So listen, answer. Don't put your answer. Do not put your answer into the chat. Let everybody answer on their own. That's kind of the sportsman-like way to do it. So let everybody have their own chance to answer. And then we'll go through the answers together at the end. Okay, and I will talk strategy, of course, as we do that. So here we're going to hop back to the website and get right into listening part 4. Part 4 is a little bit more challenging. There's no break. Okay, so it's faster. Of course, it's testing more of your real-time listening skills. You don't have the ability to review all of the information. All right. So again, I'm playing this audio through my headset microphone and a speaker. It's a nice speaker. It's a good microphone, but again, it's internet real time. So if it's quiet for you, turn up the volume, use a headset if you got one, okay? And then again, we'll go through the answers together. So here we go. Just gonna increase our volume max. There we go. All right, everyone, let's get cracking. Here we go.
Now turn to section 4. Take some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Listening section 4. You will hear a lecture about English scientist Isaac Newton. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Today we are going to discuss the life and achievements of the famous English scientist Sir Isaac Newton. Many consider Newton to be the most brilliant man to have ever lived, and many consider his achievements the greatest ever achieved by one man. Newton himself was not so sure, as he famously told his followers, "If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants." While it may be true that he built upon the foundation of scientists before him, he still managed to see further than anyone else had, and to this day his accomplishments stand the test of time. Isaac Newton was born in England in 1643. He studied at the King's School in Grantham from age 12 to 17. After leaving school, his mother tried to make him into a farmer, but that was not going to be sufficient for young Isaac. A year later, in 1661, on the recommendation of one of his teachers at the King's School in Grantham, Newton was admitted to Trinity College in Cambridge, where he eventually became a teacher 6 years later. Newton is perhaps most famous for his work on gravity. A well-known story says that Newton realized the nature of gravity while he was sitting under a tree and an apple fell on his head. This story may or may not be true, but the underlying principle is valuable. Newton made the astonishing discovery that the same force that makes an apple fall to the earth also makes the earth revolve around the sun and the moon revolve around the earth. Until this time, scientists such as René Descartes and Gottfried Leibniz had believed that the planets moved in some sort of matter, something they called an ether. Newton demonstrated that no such ether was required. Descartes and Leibniz also had little explanation for why apples fall to the earth. Newton's theory accounted for this almost perfectly. During the 20th century, Newton's theory came under attack by the German physicist Albert Einstein, whose theory of relativity was said to replace Newton's theory of gravitation. This is simply not true. Einstein's theory is a landmark achievement in science, but it did not replace Newton's theory, it merely improved it. To picture this, think of a smooth ball, perhaps a billiard ball. In this experiment of the mind, Newton tells us that the ball is smooth. However, Einstein says that the ball has small imperfections, dents, cuts, and scrapes. Who is right? The answer is both of them. Newton is correct on a macroscopic scale. When we look at the ball from a distance, the ball is smooth. However, Einstein is correct as well. The ball does have imperfections. He is correct on a macroscopic and a microscopic scale. Another of Newton's important achievements is the reflecting telescope. Previously, Galileo had used lenses to construct his telescope, but Newton was the first to use mirrors in a telescope. Today's telescopes are almost all made of mirrors as opposed to lenses, which again speaks to Newton's brilliance. There are a number of reasons the mirror is an improvement over the lens in telescopes. First, mirrors do not warp as easily as lenses do, and by that I mean that lenses can lose their shape in hot or cold weather quite easily. Second, telescopes with mirrors take up less space because of their shorter focal distance. Third, telescopes with mirrors can be built far larger because the mirrors themselves can be built larger. An achievement of Newton's that must not be overlooked is Newton's discovery of calculus. Although the discovery was not without controversy, Gottfried Leibniz also claims to have invented calculus at approximately the same time. Nobody really knows the truth, but it is accepted that they discovered it separately. In any case, it was a brilliant achievement by both scientists. Newton died in March 1727, and his body was laid to rest at Westminster Abbey in London, in a famous above-ground tomb. He was 84.
That is the end of section 4. You will now have half a minute to check your answers.
Okay, and in the paper-based exam, you're going to have another 10 minutes to transfer your answers from the question booklet to the answer sheet. Okay, let me just quickly cut back to the website and stop our audio here. All right, that was coming from our third practice exam on our website. All right, and then we'll go through the answers together, and I'll talk a little bit of strategy. So the first question here, now, of course, no breaks. Isaac Newton was born in 1643. Pay attention to this number because it will help you to locate your position in the audio, okay? So numbers and names are really good for that when you have this kind of a flow chart, okay? Studies at King's School in Grantham from the age of something to something. Now, this is just one question, so be careful, especially those of you doing the paper-based exam. All right, so Honey says, and Navneet say that that's from the age of 12 to 17. Yeah, absolutely. So in space 31 in your answer sheet, just put 12, 17, and you are good to go. All right? Okay. Fantastic. So 2 numbers. That's all you need for that. Don't write words. Words, if you have a spelling mistake, it gets marked wrong. Okay? So, all right. Then Isaac Newton leaves school and his mother attempts to make him a what? Vanancia says a farmer. Jatin agrees, and most people agree. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it is a farmer. Yeah, so mom wanted Isaac to be a farmer. But Isaac was not big into farming. Obviously, he liked books a little bit more. Which is definitely a positive for human technological evolution. 1661, on the recommendation of his teachers, admitted to Trinity College in Cambridge. 6 years after beginning, Newton becomes a something there. So what does Newton become? Instead of a farmer, Newton becomes a teacher. Very good. Yeah. Excellent. So far so good. These weren't too bad. Let's keep going. All right, now here, this is interesting. You have these questions in the reading as well as the listening where you have to match a person with facts about them. And I think that's such an important part of English or communication for the IELTS because that's what we often do in society. We talk about people and we have to kind of understand and follow who is doing what, right? Like in a company, who is responsible for what in the company. So it's no surprise that IELTS really likes these types of questions. You have to use logic. You have to really visualize. You had 4 people here. You had Galileo, Newton, Descartes and Leibniz, and Einstein. Galileo, Italian, of course. Newton, British. Descartes, French. Leibniz, German. Einstein, Austrian, so different people from different countries, very famous individuals in history. All right, so A, B, C, or D for this one. Believed that planets move in some kind of an ether, like a liquid or something. Nurmuk Samad says it's 34. That's C, Descartes and Leibniz. Yeah, Navneet agrees. Absolutely, I agree as well. It was C. So Descartes and Leibniz believed that the planets were kind of like cereal balls in milk, kind of just floating around, right? Or if somebody knows bubble tea, kind of like the little pellets floating around in the bubble tea. All right, number 35, developed a theory which was thought to replace the earlier theory of gravity. Okay, so here's a scientist who some people believe would replace the theory of gravity. And there's really only one person that we can think of for that one. Did anybody get that? So number 35. Honey says, that's Einstein, Albert Einstein. Yeah, so Albert Einstein's theory of relativity, right? D, theory of relativity, E equals mc squared. Okay, 36. In the experiment of the mind, tells us the billiard ball is smooth. All right, so according to that analogy given by the professor about these 2 scientists hopefully you remembered that it was either Newton or Einstein, right? In this explanation or in this analogy. The billiard ball is smooth. Was it either Newton or was it Einstein? Very good for those of you who caught that it was Newton. Yeah, Navneet, Gautam, Ayman, yeah, it was Newton. So according to Newton's theory of gravity, the billiard ball, according to his theory, is smooth. According to Einstein's theory, it has imperfections, dents, scrapes, and so on. Okay, now here, be really careful with negative words, not. So this is number 37, used not mirrors, but lenses. So simply put, used lenses. In the construction of the telescope, who used lenses? Mamat Muradov says that was Galileo, which for his time was a great advancement in technology. Absolutely. So Galileo, the earliest of these people, I believe way back in the 14th, in late 1400s, Galileo, 1500s, early 1500s. Yeah, Galileo. So C, D, B, and A. By the way, looking at a question like this, I'm sure that many of you are reminded that for the IELTS, it's really good to do a review of some grade 11, grade 12 science topics, history topics. Those can certainly help. And when you're doing that, do the review in English, right? So go online and search for some topics that are popular in high school in the UK or in Canada, Australia, and do a little bit of reading. And you'll probably find some lectures too, like high school lectures from teachers. And hey, you might even have a little bit of fun reviewing that kind of information or getting a bit of insight into what kind of topics are common knowledge for people in the UK or in Australia or in Canada. Okay. Charmin, thanks for the feedback. That's great. I appreciate that. Okay, so 38, 39, two questions here. A little bit more about these telescopes. So telescopes with lenses cannot be built as large as telescopes with mirrors because large lenses tend to something. Okay, so they gave two different answers. Okay, Rashika says lose, but lose what, Rashika? You have to finish this. It's no more than 2 words, okay? So lose is not enough. They tend to lose, and then you're missing your noun. Yeah, lose shape, okay, Prathamesh? So lose shape, or there was another word that they gave. So lose shape, not loose, but lose shape, okay? Hopeless romantic, careful with your spelling. It's lose shape. L-O-S-E, not sharp. Gur Sajan. Or Sadesh says warp. Yeah, that was the other word. Okay, so warp is one word, which means to lose shape. Okay, so lenses tend to warp or tend to lose shape. In this case, they will take both. Okay. Telescopes with mirrors take up less space because of their reduced what? And I remember somebody gave the answer in the chat when I was asking, don't put the answers in the chat. But somebody got it when they heard it. So telescopes with mirrors take up less space because of their reduced, if you're into cameras, photography, so focal distance. Focal length, I think, will be okay. They'll take that because it's kind of synonymous, but focal distance. Okay, so focal distance, that's the correct answer for that one. Focal distance or focal length? Both are okay because distance and length are synonymous here. All right, okay, cool, very well done. All right. One more question here. Let's get that off the board. And then we have question number 40. This was about calculus. One last amazing achievement noted about Newton. Which statement is true? Newton and Leibniz discovered calculus together. Calculus is an advanced form of mathematics. based on irrational numbers, measuring waveforms, for example. Newton and Leibniz discovered calculus separately during the same time period, or Newton and Leibniz discovered calculus separately while working at the same university. I don't think so. German, British. B it is. Very good. All right, lots of B's. Manju, Rujan, yeah. B is the correct answer. They discovered it separately, roughly at the same time. Okay, fantastic. All right, everyone. So now I've got a question for you. How did you do? What was your total score? What did you get out of 40? Okay, what was your score out of 40? You can check your band score on our website. So I'm going to show you where when you give me your scores. So on our website, at the very, very bottom, anywhere you go, you can navigate here. You'll find this score calculator right there. Okay, so there's that score calculator. And we're going to open that up. And then the score calculator is here. Use the general IELTS one for general IELTS. That's this website here with the green background, gieltshelp.com. And then here, we can put the score in. Prathamesh says 37 from yesterday's and today's class. So Prathamesh, that would be a band 8.5. Gur Sajan says 31. 31 is a band 7. Okay. Rahul says 18 out of 30. I missed the first part though. All right, no worries, Rahul. Go back and do it. Manpreet says I got 30 out of 40. It's not bad. 30 out of 40 is still a band 7. Okay. Viral Goti at 32. Yeah, I think it's 7. Yeah, it's 7.5. Goti, 32. Okay. Honey says 35. 35 is an 8. So that's well done. Okay. Okay, everyone. So that's where you can go. Now, on our websites, this is our General IELTS website here. I highly recommend joining our premium package. It really doesn't cost a lot. Our goal is really not to get a lot of money from one person, but to get a little bit from many people so we can help many people. So we've got tons and tons of videos, original practice exams, apps, and lots of other tools to help you for a relatively cheap cost. You just click that big red button to join our premium package. It's a one-time payment for a lifetime access or until you pass your IELTS exam. Whichever comes first. Hopefully, it's not the lifetime access. All right, everyone. That's it for today's lesson. Great job being here and paying attention in yesterday's and today's class for this listening. I will be back tomorrow at the same time with a speaking part 2 cue card exercise where everybody can join the chat. And members, just a reminder that the earlier class will be a Q&A session, so questions and answers, okay? Andre, good to see you in the class. All right, everyone, that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed the class. I hope you picked up some new information, new strategies and language to help you get those higher band scores. My name is Adrian. I'm signing out from beautiful Victoria on the west coast of Canada for now. Hopefully, I will catch you all again tomorrow. Much love to everyone. Bye.